Hello, welcome
Hello,
back
hello. Welcome
to
back.
another episode of the Everyday People podcast. Soon to be called something else, but it's still to be determined. Make sure you weigh in. We're still
Yes.
taking suggestions.
But I don't think they're gonna beat what we came up with already, but dare you to try.
That's true. We'll keep it a secret for just a little while longer. We do think we found something that will work really well and seems very organic and true to us. But yeah, very interested if somebody's got a bright idea that they want to share and give to us. So we were trying to figure out what we were going to do this week. It's been a bit of a chaotic week, just in like we've been working on so many different things, and so we're like, well, I guess if this podcast is supposed to reflect our working life, then that's what the topic this week will be, which is like a mixed bag, and I guess ultimately just about sort of multitasking because
Yeah.
we've been doing a lot of different things. So
Yeah. I hate multitasking, to be quite honest. It's so funny because when I was younger, I would have definitely thought like, oh, I'm a multitasker. I can do multiple things at once, right? This is probably part of the hustle era generation I came up with. That was like a resume worthy selling feature of your productivity, right? But then like at some point older, I'm like, well, I can multitask. I don't know how many of these things are going to get done well. And two, I actually can retain much more or enjoy the experience more if I'm just focused on one thing. But heaven forbid one job sustain you in this here old film and television industry of ours. And
yeah.
so I am grateful to be busy in a multitasking way on stuff I actually like, which, it
Yeah,
could be
it
very
does feel
different.
like a gift, right? Like, I mean, it feels, yeah, you couldn't ask for more, but you're right. Like, there was a real time when it was a badge of honor to grind hard, to hustle, to have more than one thing going on, right? Side
Yeah.
gigs and like, yeah. But I feel like we've all sort of come around to the idea of like, well, that's a real scam, right? Like, that
Yeah.
means like you're not sleeping and you don't know when your next paycheck is going to arrive and if it's going to be enough for your rent. Right? So things are still out of whack, but you're right. I agree. We are very fortunate and lucky to have lots of things that we're working on that are things that we're genuinely excited for and that will be good for us, right? Like
Yeah.
these are, in my experience, there's been just so many times that I have been passionate about stuff that has absolutely no money attached to it, right? Like I'm doing it in spite of the money, or I'm like, oh, the money will come, or I'll do something else to get the money, but I really want this thing to happen. And yeah, so it's yeah, it feels very luxurious to be like working hard on something that we like, but also has the potential to be security, right? Like have some sort of financial security attached to it.
About the first thing that we're not working on actually, which I don't think we've even talked about, is Girls Like Us. So you did some recon over the weekend. And you're going to tell
Yes.
us what it was, but we feel like we've officially gotten the word. Listen, sometimes you have so many things and ideas, it can be helpful just to know what door has to be closed right now or like put back in the drawer so that you can move on. Because, yeah, there's a million ways to skin a cat, a million ways to do anything. Anything could go at any time. The tides could turn, and now everybody wants vampire romances again or whatever it is. But yeah, so we got some information that makes us feel pretty confidently, even though we had already chosen to pivot to sinking ship / meant to be. The feature that Girls Like Us for right now is pretty dead.
Yeah, and I think that I agree that it is sort of nice to have a definitive answer and for us to like close that door for sure. I will just say that even though we had, like you just said, like we had pivoted away, right, onto sinking ship, and it was for all intents and purposes like on the back burner, but I had the chance to go to the National Cheer Championships that was being held near the airport in Toronto, and it just became very clear it's very small. This is the nationals, like everybody from across Canada, that it is in the States. It is a really like, I mean, it was lovely. And the girls, and most of them were girls, were impressive and adorable. And, I was very happy to watch them perform and very proud of all of them. But it is just not the thing, right? Like it is just a small culture and there was no sponsorship. It was just like, and it was just such a small pool for us to draw from, right? And like, that's not what we have in our plan. So I was like, it wouldn't even draw the audience that we would hope that a cheer film would draw, right? Like,
Yeah.
so many of the little elements that, like, obviously, we're not making a film, to pander to any particular audience. Like, we wrote it out of a genuine interest in the story, but like all the sort of production concerns that we were trying to solve would not be solved in Canada. So, good for us for keeping the door open and like being like, as realistic as we could possibly be with like, well, if we have to pivot, if we have to compromise, let's be open to that. I can say definitively now, like, this is not a Canadian centered movie. And so while
Great.
that becomes a requirement, this can't be it. So,
Great. I mean, yeah, I feel really great knowing that and feeling great that our gut instincts were telling us that, but it's always nice to get that kind of confirmation. And yeah, just to underscore what you were saying, right? It's not there's lots of movies about, people say super niche and very small worlds and being very specific. But the specificity, that's not in the way in which the story needed to land in terms of like, oh, just because the culture here is small doesn't mean it what we want the culture to be able to also help us reflect, which drew our interest, is that there's an appetite for it. And if it has
yeah.
a very small ecosystem and culture here, it's going to be even harder to get, Canadian funders on board with us telling a story about a culture that they don't feel is truly reflective or thoroughly reflective in our national identity and possibly set somewhere else, whether we were shooting in Spain for Joshua Tree or actually in Joshua Tree or what have you. And that project was earmarked, right? Like if we're going to do something intimate or smaller again, that's what meant to be was something
Yeah.
that was like a couple steps up, but still we could firmly keep our hands on it. Whereas Girls Like Us, for us, we were always seeing it as the project that was going to be our, as much as you can hope for these things, the commercial breakthrough, right? Have a big, much wider appeal and see as something that so many people could pick up as a genre film and really do the numbers with across theaters and things like that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's that. So that's off the task list for right now, which is great because up until then, up until you decide that officially, you can end up doing a lot of work that will still eventually be useful, but might be stopping other things from advancing right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to case in point, I mean, how often I think almost every podcast that we've recorded, we've talked about Girls Like Us for one degree or another. And so it's like it has been living in our head. It has been on the roster. It's, been pushed down, obviously, but like it's still been on the roster. And now I feel like that really is like that script is going in the proverbial drawer, right? It's going
Yeah,
like it is put away until something massively shifts.
yeah, yeah.
So.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not sad about it because, like we discussed last time, like we had that breakthrough about meant to be, which, meant to be sinking ship, like the way we're reframing that. And so, yeah, I feel like that has been reinvigorated and we're really pushing hard on that. But the thing I think that is the project that we haven't spoken much about, but is like what we're doing now, or is at the priority this week, is we are pitching a TV show, right? So we're getting ready to pitch to a network. And part of that process is rehearsing, right? Like rehearsing what was a written pitch down to a verbal pitch that used to be done in person and used to have all the bells and whistles, like a leave it behind deck and or like a full on like PowerPoint presentation, but now they've sort of really like come down in scale and it
It
really
really
is.
depends. Like I find that it's like I would say 80-20. 80% of the time Canada or US is on additional material, but there's about 20% of the time. Every time when I'm gonna think it's standard, like there comes a deck again or something like that. But yeah, just to say out loud, from our experience, what one producer once said was that it's not common to do leave behinds in America. It's funny if you've watched the studio, it very much is like, I mean, what Tanya's describing used to happen in boardrooms, and maybe there might have been lunch or something, but it's very much like Nicholas Stoller reading his written pitch for the Kool-Aid movie to Seth Rogen and Sal Saperstein, I forget
Mhm.
that performer's name, character, in that, just like reading it at a table and him kind of animating the voices to a certain degree and that kind of thing, except over Zoom. There's been one or two times where we've had the production company we're working with to try really help sell it, did like a sizzle reel type of thing or a show trailer. And then I've presented a time or two with visuals because this is just my opinion. I mean, no one is ever going to admit it because they're supposed to be paying attention, but like, you get lost in the sauce just listening to somebody talk on Zoom for like 45 minutes. And sometimes the pitches, I think in general, you try to keep it to 20 or so, like
Mhm.
15 to 20, 25 if it's really juicy, but roughly around 20. And that's what we're gearing up to do next. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so basically what that's going to look like is just, yeah, us trying to whittle down because we did a run through and it was like, I think sitting at like 30 minutes or something like that,
We did
maybe
a
even a
run
bit
through
more.
and it was brutal. It was brutal. Not
But
that the pitch itself is thing, but it just does become a different beast when you read it for the first time
totally.
and when you read it aloud for the first time. Because you underestimate how simply things like too many letters, too many words starting with the same letter in a row, and you're there like sup, like trying to get through the sentence, or it just doesn't flow in a way that like there's no natural pause break for you, and so you're just reading for a long time and that kind of stuff. So rough in that sense, but the pitch itself is actually quite good, but we definitely needed to rehearse it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that is something that we will do together once or twice after we've sort of like taken a pen to the paper version, and then we'll do it with the production company that we're hopefully collaborating with, and then we'll do it in front of the or like on a call with the broadcaster. And so yeah, that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. That whole process will take about 3 weeks or so. And yeah, we'll keep you posted. The good thing about that is I think we hear back pretty quickly. Like that's been my experience with these things is that it doesn't take long. They either like it or they don't. Like they're either interested or they're not. And if they're interested, maybe then there's some bumps along the way or it can take a little longer. But if it's a no, you hear no pretty fast, which is great. Similar to what we were just saying about Girls Like Us. It's nice to sort of just clear things off the potential list,
A fast
right?
no is as good as a long yes, is what I always say. You can take
Yes.
all the time you want if you're going to give me what I want. And the answer is yes. But if it's going to be no, just tell me quickly so we can move on and
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
And so while that's going on, so that's kind of front and center focus and making sure that's in proper shape. But we do still have, yeah, quite a list of things that we are also having in the go. So I'm finishing up, an outline for new metric for the first look project that we have there, and then a script for another series that I'm writing on, When It Rains It Pours, Good and Bad kind of thing. But then also we'll have rehearsals for these, and then we're also still we're never not trying to sell this movie one way or another. And that might mean either like directly to customers, talking to streamers, talking to thing. And because we are acting as our own distributor with it, on top of that, that means a lot of like learning things for the first time, right? So, we're currently going through, we tried doing some ad management stuff ourselves. We felt like we need an expert, but we really can't afford the expertise of experts. And we can help ourselves a great deal. So we don't necessarily need someone to come in and do design and do all of that stuff, but we do want someone who's more understanding than us. But until we find that person or find that right fit, then it is just us doing it, right? And so figuring out, assessing what we learned from last time of this and getting ready for certain rollout dates and stuff like that, because yeah, the film will always be there, sure, but the longer we wait to kind of talk about it, the more we're just delaying potential progress of it. So we can't really like wait until we have nothing else on the plate, as many of you know, right? To say like, okay, now we're just going to focus on this. That's kind of what the last few months got to be between the holidays and I would say until March, right? Kind of what are our different, growth attempts going to be and planting those seeds. And now we just have to tend to them while we also tend to three other pots on the stove.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, so dinner with friends just is an ongoing promotional task. And, we're having a call next week, hopefully with a partner in the States that can sort of help us to reach sort of like a cinephile audience that's, in the States where we can really do some screenings in there's yeah. So we're meeting with somebody to help us do a theatrical run in the States in independent theaters later this year. And that will be very exciting. And like, I do hope that that sort of allows us to connect with an audience in the States, like person to person, like actually go in person. That would be really great.
We spoke with this person when we were initially doing our Canadian theatrical, and they were just starting out. They were just about to launch their own kind of distribution partner outfit. They refer to a specific term because they themselves aren't fully a distributor per se, but they do manage theatrical and that kind of thing. And it's one of those, like, it's so funny where where we feel very aligned in kind of where we're at and what we're trying to do and the kinds of films we're trying to prioritize. So it's exciting, and hopefully it makes sense for us to continue working together to just have a partner stateside that we feel like really gets where we're at kind of thing, because it's hard to find, but when you do find it, it can be really, really, really great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that's ongoing. And, if that meeting goes well, then that will sort of light a fire under us to seek for funding to help us execute. And that's one of multiple grants that we're sort of looking at. We're starting to assemble our grant calendar of like what we want to target over the next few months and sort of deciding because, I have my projects, you have your projects, then we have our projects. And, you want to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes or like maxing out how many submissions we can do for one stream and like fatiguing, the councils or what have you. It's just that is a whole thing of like scouring through all the grants and figuring out, what do you want to apply for? What am I going to apply for? What should, do we need to prioritize or are we going to go into competition? Like, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, and it's tough because, like, I mean, even though we've been successful with grants at the different council levels in the past, there really is no guarantee every time you apply, right? It really depends on the year and that kind of thing. And so it's like maximizing your chances, but also not press, like, flooding the system kind of thing and trying to have some balance with that. But yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And it's hard when you can only write so much. And so
Mhm.
just it's an endurance game. Like I always am trying to figure out like even for myself, if I could write all these grants, right? Like if we decided that we're clear to like write as and apply for all of them, like which ones do you really have the energy for? Like which ones do you
Yeah.
really like the most? And do you really want to make sure that that grant goes in and is going to land? Yeah, it's tough, right? You could spend your entire waking hours writing grants, right? And to your point, right? Like it is based on so many different factors and it's not all merit, it's not all creative, excellence. There's so many different factors. And yeah, like right now I'm waiting on a grant and, who knows what will happen, but like even just waiting also takes its toll, right? Like
Yeah.
and so, yeah, you're in a sort of limbo and you're trying to keep your expectations low or not count on that money or count on that. But you can't help but to block off of like, well, if I get that grant, that's what I'm doing in the late summer. Or if that works out,
Well,
then that is what I'm doing in November. And it's not real at all. Right. But you're still
yes.
holding the space because you've obviously intended, like, that's obviously what you want to do, or you wouldn't apply for the grant. Right.
Yeah.
And said that that's what you want to do in November.
I think it's particularly tough when that grant can also answer or fund the whole thing. Like it is the thing that's
Oh,
either
yes.
closing the thing or the trigger to the thing. I think if you're trying to make, a $500,000 film, let's say, and you apply to Canada Council for 100,000, you still have 400. Like you don't take your foot off the gas because you still need to try and hunt down that other 100,000 kind of thing. But if the project or development thing you're working on or whatever the nature of the project is, whether it's creation or one of the other streams that it allows, if it's the thing that's going to fund everything, right, then it's the difference between like, will I be here in the next 3 months or will I get to do that residency, or will that come through because of this? It really does. Yeah, it can be very hard to wait sometimes. So we're
Yeah.
trying to get ahead of it a bit. It's also like, yeah, I mean, each grant is its own beast, and there is also you don't ever, like, it's free writing time too, right? Like you don't get paid to write the grant. We're not
Mhm.
the fortunate upside is that the grants are, provided, the funding is public funding, and so that's great. But then you gotta like assess, right? Is it less time that we spend pushing the film or doing certain things on that, or okay, does that mean that we have to accelerate implementing a kind of plug and play system for some ads or something for the movie because for this month we're gonna da 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 da. And
Yeah.
even though we're working on meant to be, and there's still rewrites that we want to do with that script. So there's that part of it too,
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. And then also just like new idea writing. It doesn't always happen at once, but ever so often I feel like what's happening now does, where everything is just coalescing a little bit on top of each other. Like the top
Mhm.
of something starts just as the tail is ending of one kind of thing. Not like
Yeah.
everything happening at once, but you do need
It's
like
so tough.
priority reassessment kind of thing.
100%. Like I'm doing this paid gig right now and it's multiple episodes of something and it's got a pretty rigid delivery schedule,
Mm.
but then the trailer was thrown into the mix and it was sort of outside of it. But I started to write it and it like was coming really good and I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to complete this script because
Yeah.
I can see that it's got some momentum and that's good for me, right? So like I'll be able to get this out of the way." But that's not due until after this other thing is due right now. I'm like, it's not really how writing works. This will
Yeah.
be better if I can just like, I will get to the other thing, but I'm going to do this first
The
right
kind
now.
of brain space I need to write, I have right now. So let me just do this, tend to this the
Exactly.
best way I can now.
Exactly. And so to your
Yeah.
point about like new writing and existing writing and just like, yeah, all of it, you can have all the ideas and intentions in your head, but sometimes it does not come out that way, right? Like
Yeah.
if you do get a new idea and it just flows out of you, even if it is not the priority, right? Like you've got deadlines or you've got commitments of other kinds, right? Like sometimes it's really hard not to just be like, yeah, but this is coming really fast and easy and good. Like I'm excited by it. So I just have to do this right now. Like
Yeah.
this has got to be the thing because
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited and it's coming. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
people always make those analogies of like birthing stuff, when they're talking about art making, which is, a bit cringy, but also a bit true, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just coming. Like it's just,
Yep.
I can't tell you. I'm
You
like,
need, the
I'm
baby
on a
needs to
roll.
bake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And now
I'm
it's
on a
time to
roll
push.
and it doesn't always happen. So, like I'm going to ride this, to,
100%.
to the end.
Do you have any
Um,
hacks that you have for to, or is it like a just a constant of being an artist? You think you have to multitask and just roll with it as it happens?
I think there's really something to that when something's working, don't disrupt it, right? So as part of that, right, like, I will get up early or like
Mm.
if walking is working, right? Like I'm working at a story and like that doesn't always happen, but it does happen sometimes where I'll just be like, leave my house to go for a long walk and be like, okay, so what are these characters up to today? Right? Like
Mhm.
where did I leave off yesterday? And for the length of the walk, I'm doing that. And then I'm just trying to voice note as much as I can before I get home. But then I will make sure that I walk every day, right? Like that I will always go and I will not do no podcast, no music. I will just be like, okay, this worked yesterday. Like just ride this out until it no longer works.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then also, like if I do have other commitments, I will just try to get up early or like the minute I actually wake up rather than sort of sitting in bed and like taking my time. Like if it's
Mhm.
early, like the other day, it was like 5 in the morning. I easily could have turned over and gone to bed, but I was like, or I could get up and I could write for 3 hours, right? Like, and I could really like see if I make any headway. And when you're on a roll, sometimes that works. So that's what I'll end up doing is doing that, which is not great for my sleep patterns. It
Mm.
throws it off pretty bad. Like the other day, also, this is the other side of that. Like my computer's in my bedroom. Like I have a little sort of desk set up at the side of my bedroom. And like if I'm going to bed, sometimes I'll be like, maybe I'll just try and write for like half an hour, right? Before I actually go to bed, right? Especially if I was just going to go to bed to watch TV or something.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, and sometimes if I get going, I could easily be there for a few hours, right? And get somewhere. But again, it's terrible for my sleep patterns. And that is a real
That's so
dangerous game.
interesting. That's so interesting.
But yeah, there's no hacks in terms of like for preparing for it. It's just making space for it, I guess. And trying to, again, like very similar to, being a bit superstitious of like if one thing is working, like going for walks, then I'll just try to make sure that I'm going for a walk every day and
Right.
like
Yeah.
keeping it going. But what about you? What are your hacks?
Hacks. That's hilarious. I've been spending most of my adult life trying to figure out a hack for multitasking, and I come up short every single fucking time. The closest thing that I can say, I think what I've learned over the years, it's actually particularly when it comes to writing, it's very difficult for me to just drop into it like for 30 minutes kind of thing. Like I can't fathom that. I realize I don't go for very long, but it's for a good long time. But like I used to set 2 hour writing blocks every day, kind of thing. And I
Hmm.
mean, it would take nothing for that to become 1:45, to then become an hour and a half, to then feel like, well, I'm not going to get that far into it anyways, kind of thing. And so I'd block longer chunks of time, but then be disappointed when I didn't get like what felt like that day's worth of writing done.
Right.
And just the reality of it is that I do need 5 hours to write too. Like for whatever reason, I need to get I need to put I need to thing I need to make the thing to eat. I need to I need to order the thing on Amazon that I should have ordered before. I need to get it all out of my system. That usually is a 2 to 3 hour thing, and then I can start writing kind of thing. So I think like if I would say when I like in a period like now, the number one thing that I do, it's less hacks more so than I guess some kind of advice, but just like reassess the priorities, like what really is the top thing, how long is it going to take you, and kind of try to assess that and what needs to be done when, or identify moments like what you're saying, which is like, well, this thing is actually quick, even though it's not due to 2 weeks from now. So let me just do this and get it out of the way then, right?
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
that kind of thing. But a lot of it is just, I mean, continuing to try, to be quite honest. This is half of my motto of life with things, which is just because the more I try, the more I learn about myself and how I write to better adjust towards it, kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I just know myself a little bit better in terms
It's
of how I handle things. And then it's just like, well, like I just realized the other day with this most recent deadline that I need to budget. It could take me, like, if I just was sitting down looking only at that scene, on average, about 2 hours to write a scene from an outline that's already been outlined, kind of thing, right? But
yeah.
I've been writing for years and I'm just coming to that understanding of like the most, like an accurate or semi-accurate thing that I could actually assess. Like, okay, if I have to do a half-hour script and has this many scenes, how many hours do I need, and
Right.
block out that time accordingly. I'm just realizing how to do that. So, because a lot of time multitasking feels like it's happening in motion. You're just like doing a
Hmm.
thing, and then it's like, oh yeah, this thing. Oh, you guys want to go now? Okay, okay, okay. And then it's like, oh wait, this opportunity of a lifetime. I should try and squeeze this in, and then suddenly you have 4 or 5 things. So I think just one,
Yes.
recognizing that it's a particular season. I actually think my biggest hack is establishing routine when it's not a busy multitask season. Like
Yes.
using the winter to get into a habit of setting a schedule that like I can revert to as my default once the dust settles is very
Yeah.
helpful, kind of thing. And I think establishing kind of what you're saying about though, like walking as a baseline floor of like for when things get busy or they're like multitasking to me just means like you have a lot going on. So you have less free time to really what ends up going out the window first is like the self-care stuff, right? Is like
100%,
sleeping
right? It's the
properly and
optional stuff. It's the stuff
yeah,
that you're completely in the driver's seat about whether or not you do it, right? It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
going to affect
So then
anybody
it
but
becomes
you.
optional actually, because it really isn't, right? Like we
Right.
deprioritize our
Yes.
health and wellness, but it feels optional because you're the only person you have to talk to about it. You're like, yeah,
Exactly.
we'll just,
Exactly. That's what I mean.
yeah.
But, like, I'm with you, and I think that this is very common, what you were saying about, like, you almost have this, like, ritual routine of all the things that you have to do before you can actually sit down and start writing, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I can tell you if my house is really clean, I'm not writing. I'm in some sort of writer's
Really?
block because,
Really?
yes, because I will have talked to myself into it. It's like, well, before I can write, I need to like make sure that my desk is clear. I need to make sure that this room, like again, because I'm in my bedroom, that there's no laundry and that the bed is made and that the blinds are up and all the things, right? And so, and then I'll take the dishes downstairs and be like, I need to clean this kitchen. Like, I just need no clutter so that my mind is clear and I can write. It's not true because when I'm
Mm-hmm.
on a tear, it all goes out the window, right? Because I am writing. And so there's laundry everywhere and I haven't made my bed in 3 days. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
God help me, I'm lucky if I've showered, like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm not on top of anything, right? Like, I need to grocery, like, it just like, so I do all of those things telling myself of like, well, if I like uncluttered life, uncluttered mind, all that kind of bullshit, it is not true, right? Like, it just does not work that way for me anyway. But it's a nice consolation prize that if you're not writing, that at least your house is really on point and
That's
there's
so
food in the
funny because I'm
fridge.
the opposite way. I mean, I can like I would prefer I the only way I can write if my place is messy is if I'm on deadline and I just have to anyways. But then it becomes like it spirals out of control so quickly. It's
Oh,
like I need it to start messy to start clean to delude myself that like yeah everything's fine but without fail like if I'm because especially whether I'm on deadline or not maybe this is true to the point about the right if I really am in the pocket of it like I will
mhm.
just stay up forever right or like there's
Yeah.
something happening that I don't want to disconnect from because it is
Yes.
coming to me easily but then that does like I think last week one time I mean it's not I have trouble sleeping but I didn't go to bed till like 3 a.m because I just like found this new way and I will especially when the writing is the multitasking writing is a part of the things that you have to multitask because it just
Mhm.
becomes the thing I'm thinking about all the time or what have you and then you get the idea idea. Like, okay, let me just jot it down. But
Mhm.
that's funny about the room cleaning thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, just really, I mean, figure out what works for you really, but you have to kind of be honest with yourself. I think for so long, and it wasn't even being dishonest, but you just don't know till you try, right? I tried so many, like people who are like, I get up every day at 9 a.m. And because the thing
Uh-huh.
with multitasking is usually your routine is very hard to manage. I think people who are often multitasking seriously to any kind of excellent degree have a lot of support people around them,
Yeah.
right? That handle the execution part of the thing that they like. So your brain might be flipping through these different things. I can sit through a whole day of meetings where I need to weigh in on a bunch of different stuff. And it's first it's this, and then it's about this, and then it's about something else and a different project. But when I need to, and this happens a lot, I think, in manager positions. I had a manager who once said this, not manager in our industry, manager more in the like traditional corporate
Yeah.
hierarchy, where she was like, she didn't like being a manager because her day was all meetings. And so the actual details of her job that she had to do, whatever report, whatever the execution of it, she was doing between 5 to 9 p.m., right? Because her whole day was just filled
Yeah.
with like either people management meetings or team meetings or like, big project meetings that they were having. And I think that's really it, is that by the time you're multitasking, either there's someone else that's able to, like, for example, when I'm show running, I think that's an example of
Mhm.
when but that's not my typical routine, right? Like I'm not even interfacing with that many people on an average day kind of thing. But I think
Mhm.
that's the only time where I think like I am multitasking. It is delivering, but it's because the multitasking is like flipping my brain as to what's needed, but it's kind of in this one context. And there's department heads, right? That
Yeah.
take part one, bring it to part two, and then bring it back to me before thing. Whereas the multitasking we're talking about, and I think always just means to me, at least, I don't know if it's different in your life, that like you have less time available, is where you're the person that has to be in the meeting and then go and write that report, right? And having the time to do all of that, I think, and still feed yourself and go to the gym. I also found that habit stacking, I got that far in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, but habit stacking I do think is real. So I've been reading scripts, or like if I'm supposed to watch a short and give notes, like while I'm on the treadmill at the gym, right?
Right.
Like, or like things that I can do while I'm, yeah, doing something
100%. I mean,
else.
for me, that's the walking thing, right? Of like,
Yeah,
I'm going out walking every day because I need to get exercise or I'll not do anything, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
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 and then it's just like, how can I use this time and how can I make sure that I'm out for longer, walking farther, like letting my mind wander in all different directions, knowing that I gotta be out here for like an hour and a half, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
multitasking, it happens. It gets to the best of us, but it is, I mean, I think I've designed my life ideally to not have to be in that mode all the time or
Mhm.
for too long. And that's really the kind of saving grace. But I do gear up for it. And I try to like, I think of it, when I think of it in the same way that like, yeah, when I'm on set or in prep for something, that's when I think the most multitasking happens. And I do like, I try not to eat too much pasta. I do make sure I get my
Yeah.
greens in, right? I am drinking more water, all of that kind of stuff. I try to be more mindful, or like I'll have like an accountability buddy of like, make sure I eat lunch today, or like, help me remember XYZ, because it can be a lot. But that's really the only kind of, I don't even know if these are hacks. This is what I have to say on multitasking.
Yeah, so that so you like them? No, I would agree. I think it's an ongoing thing, and it is just part of having a sort of unstructured career,
Yeah.
that you do kind of have to get used to. But yeah,
It's so
sometimes it,
tough though,
yeah, it really,
because I feel my body like just dying for routine sometimes. I feel my body just want to know like, this is what we're gonna do today, and it was the same as yesterday, but without that having to come with the darkness and despair that is winter. Because that's really the
yes,
only time that we have that. But I mean, it's not the same person showing up to do anything during those winter months when it like gets cold at 4.
you got it. I'm with you there. That's for sure. It's a lot easier when, yeah, when you got more hours in the day to work with, for sure. Well, we're not alone, I'm sure. There's lots
Yes,
of
yes,
people
yes,
who are doing
yes.
this with us. So
Right.
I guess
We
that's
will
it.
be back. Yeah, I think we're going to do like a Q&A episode pretty soon. I've been
Mhm.
speaking with some cohorts and different participants of programs and open the floor to them to submit questions. I just did a pitching workshop thing for Spindle Films. If you have more questions on pitching and how we're any more details about how we're approaching the pitch that we're getting ready for, any questions about anything, please feel free to submit. And when we get enough questions, we'll do a little mailbag episode of sorts.
Yeah. And I think, as much as I don't really love it, but or don't feel very comfortable doing it, I think, we still would love everybody to watch the film. The film is called Dinner with Friends, and you can find it
Yes.
on multiple platforms, or you
Yes, yes,
can
yes.
rent it directly from us on Patreon.
Yes, yes, yes. All right.
Okay.
Talk
We'll
soon.
see you next
Bye
time.
bye.
Bye.